Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is April 17th, and right now we're looking at the infrared satellite imagery. Check out the ridge of high pressure here. You can clearly see it, the clockwise rotation, the anticyclonic flow, general overall sinking air. You can see the storm track pointed up into the south coast of Alaska. Pretty strong storm out there. I was working some flights out there yesterday and getting a little bit of turbulence there going into Anchorage. Things can get pretty crazy when you drag the wind across some of the terrain features out there. But yeah, we have some nice weather coming up here across portions of the Pacific Northwest, really much of the Pacific Northwest. We still have the low pressure center right here centered across Idaho, kicking off some mountain snows and some precipitation with that. We had a few lightning strikes across western Montana yesterday. We'll dive into all those details. We'll take a look at what's coming to this weekend because we're going to have a bit of a pattern change. We're going to have a trough dropping down across the region and really start to kick some onshore flow, bring some precipitation back into the region, and then we'll take a look at what is to come next week as well. So this is where we are right about now, and you can clearly see the mountains out there, Mount Baker and Mount Rainier, for example. I mean, there's hardly a cloud to speak of here across the entirety of Washington state. I don't even see any lower clouds out there, maybe a little hint of some fog in the Chehalis Gap out here. But yeah, for the most part, you got to go off across some of the Blue Mountains, Idaho or Montana to get some clouds, and some of the interior valleys of the Rockies there. Looks like there is some fog, maybe a little bit of cloud activity there across British Columbia, but some nice, glorious weather coming up today and tomorrow. You're going to want to get out and enjoy this if you can. Friday, tomorrow should be the warmest day for much of the area. Now, taking a look at apparent temperature, I'm going to update that. We do have a little bit more data. It's 8:15. You can see, already getting up to the upper 40s here across some of the area. And again, a very warm day in store, relatively speaking, here for the Pacific Northwest. Now, looking at lightning strikes, we did get the one strike right on the Washington-Oregon border right there. So that was at least one strike. And we had some across western Montana, portions of eastern and southern Idaho as well. We're getting lightning activity here over the last 24 hours. But we didn't bring any of that into Washington State. Some of the models were showing that storm kind of moving down towards Spokane yesterday. That did not produce any lightning out there. And just a reminder here, if you're going off in the backcountry or if you're going out to enjoy some of the waterways here, the water is still very cold. You can lose your strength very quickly. Nice stuff here from the National Weather Service, Portland, Oregon. And looking at things currently, you can see we're still getting the north wind here through the Okanagan River Valley. There's Omak. You can see the low pressure center here kicking off. Still some mountain snow ongoing across Wyoming, portions of Montana, higher terrain of Idaho. But again, very nice weather right now across much of the Pacific Northwest. If we look at Spokane, you can see how it got pretty windy yesterday. Looks like the peak wind gust was 35 knots or so. Did we get any higher? It's up over 40 miles per hour. So yeah, it was some pretty interesting gusty weather there. And if we look at Omak, with 44 knots, I believe, was the peak wind gust there. So pretty gusty winds out there. That's approaching 50 miles per hour. So we talked about that, and the models did good handling that. Now, Boise weather spotter. So you don't have to be anywhere near Boise or anything to do these classes. These are virtual classes. I'll leave the link here for this site in my Patreon page, and that link will be below. And you can sign up here, and really good information there. It tells you all about what becoming a Skywarn spotter is. And if for nothing else, you don't have to be a full-time spotter, but just taking these classes really improves your knowledge, your meteorological knowledge here, and especially here across Pacific Northwest. And again, they'll kind of probably highlight some areas in the Idaho region, but again, you can still go there and check out these virtual classes. And you can see Boise National Weather Service here. Still some wind advisories down there that do include Boise and Mountain Home as we go through this morning. Let's take a look here. That goes all the way on in through this evening, about 6 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. And again, you can check out the Patreon page if you want to support the channel. It's probably best to do there here. And you can kind of see that this weather station, there's a lot of stuff to read about this. And there's some third-party apps you can use. You can view this anywhere. Click on the link down below if you want a nice weather station. So now take a look at the weather forecast here. Got the European Artificial Intelligence here on the left, the GFS on the right. Here's the ridge, short-term stuff going on. There's the low pressure center. Ridge dominating our weather as we go through today and tomorrow. Very warm day, but then quickly we're going to get this fairly weak initial frontal system moving through on the late Friday night and on to Saturday morning. Then we're going to kick this onshore flow, and you can see how that troughs can be there. The air wants to flow from high to low. Going to using some of our terrain features to bring some mountain snow, some convergent zone activity with that. And then as we go on in towards next week, it doesn't look too bad next week as well. We may start to bounce back here, but this system there that the European and the GFS are both showing, the GFS is further south with it down into California, but the artificial intelligence keeps that a little bit bit further north, so that would keep our temperature subdued a bit here and keep things a little bit more unsettled across a lot of the Pacific Northwest versus what the GFS is showing here. So next week doesn't look too bad right now. I will continue to watch that, but this storm system here will try to get some better model agreement as we go on into over the next couple days. Now, if we look at the European, again, there's our low pressure center as we go through today and tonight. Again, some very nice weather as we go through Friday. Then a weak frontal system passes through late Friday night into Saturday morning. Some convergent zone activity there for western Washington. A bit of mountain snow is probably, kind of hit and miss there where the convergent zone activity sets up and where it's more persistent, of course, is where the most snowfall is going to occur. And Sunday night, actually during the day, Sunday night, and on into Monday morning here, that shows some pretty persistent bands of snowfall occurring. So I just want to call attention to people off in the backcountry. If you're staying out there on the day Sunday and heading off into the early portion of next week and you're going to be out there, watch out for that. Between Snoqualmie and Stevens Pass, or maybe even one or both passes, you could be getting some accumulating snowfall as we go on in towards Monday morning. Could be, kind of a big deal out there if you're not prepared for that. So heads up for that. And then as we scroll off in towards Monday and Tuesday, you can see we do dry out again and kind of ridge out here over the ocean waters or the coastal waters, and that is going to keep us dry probably on into next week. So we got the weekend coming up here. It's going to be a little bit rainy and whatnot and unsettled, but probably going to bounce back again next week. And if we take a look here at 925 millibars or 2,500 feet, this is where we are this morning. Still got the north winds, a bit gusty and blustery down there. You can see them kind of carving out through Treasure Valley there into Idaho and across eastern Washington, Oregon. Still the Okanagan River Valley there is fairly gusty this morning. Offshore winds through the Cascades, probably a bit breezy there through this morning, but that should be relaxing as we go through the day today. You can see the northerly wind down the Puget Sound Strait of Georgia coming down with the north wind as well. And we go through Friday, something similar. Some, a little bit of gusty east wind even across eastern Washington. But watch what happens as we go on in towards the weekend. Look at the pattern change. We start to bring the westerlies back, gusty winds down the east slopes of the Cascades, and you can see the onshore flow, convergent zone activity as we go through the upcoming weekend shown there on the North American high resolution model. And we'll take a look at the composite reflectivity, what the Doppler radar may look like. And I'll call attention to this as well. You can see as we go through the day today and tonight, maybe kicking off a shower again, Blue Mountains, Idaho Panhandle, Rocky Mountains there, but again, much of the region dry today and tomorrow. Then we go through Friday night. There goes that very weak system, but then we're going to have the convergent zone activity and some showery weather behind that, and some cooler air aloft will definitely cool us down as we go through the weekend. Now, total snow, Kucher ratio in inches in the European. So I'm going to scroll off in towards Sunday night and kind of see that bullseye there right between Snoqualmie and Stevens Pass. So you got to watch out there if you're across the higher terrain out there camping, plan on spending the night Sunday night, and definitely be aware of that activity. Lightning flash density potential as we go on into the weekend as well. There is a little bit of this showing up, so we could get a lightning strike or two in the convergent zone. We'll watch that a little bit closer as we go through tomorrow. Now, this is today, Thursday, April 17th. And in fact, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. We're going to go to Pacific Northwest. And you can kind of see portions of the lower, the Treasure Valley down towards Boise here as well. And then eastern Washington, there's the Columbia Basin. You got the Willamette Valley and the Puget Sound there. So if we take a look here, you can see, again, a very nice day. Look at Southwest BC, Vancouver, getting into the mid, maybe upper 60s. You can see the Fraser River terrain feature right there. There's the Okanagan River terrain feature. There's the gorge, the Washington-Oregon border, sea level gap between eastern Oregon and western Oregon and western Washington, and very warm conditions. But look at tomorrow, probably the best day of the 2 days here coming up. And you can see some mid 70s showing up here for Portland Metro and maybe into the lower 70s here for Seattle. So do get out there and enjoy that, because look at Saturday. We really cool things down as we get towards Saturday. There's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday we start to bounce back. Then you can see we go through Wednesday. There's Thursday. And so we start to, next week might not be too bad. And in fact, this would be, there'll be some very nice days here if that does come into fruition here. So we'll continue to watch that closely, of course, as always. Now, looking at the artificial intelligence on the left versus the GFS on the right. This is 2 meter temperature anomaly, a 1 day running total. So you can see today and tomorrow we're above average. Good model agreement there. And then we scroll on in through this weekend. We get the chillier air aloft, good model agreement with that here as we go on in towards the early portion of next week. Then we start to bounce back a bit again here in both models. We start to warm up next week a little bit here. But then again, I talked about this at the beginning of the video. That low pressure system here is a bit more prominent and further north on the European artificial intelligence versus the GFS, which keeps that much further south and would definitely allow us to warm up a bit more. So we'll see which model is going to win this model battle here as we go through the upcoming week. Let's see which one bends the knee to the other. And if we look at the artificial intelligence model, let's take a look at that. You can see the trophy, showery weather as we go through this weekend, and we dry out as we go through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It looks pretty nice as well. And we go into Thursday, and we start to bring some precipitation in portions of Oregon, Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming. And then that low pressure center swings in here, and it could be spreading some precipitation by the time we go towards next weekend. So, again, it's a ways out there, and we don't have great confidence in that right now. You saw the differences between the models. So we're going to continue to watch that. Now looking at 15-day precipitation anomaly in the European ensemble, kind of a below normal signal there. And if we go on to the 15-day on the European artificial intelligence, something similar shown. And this is over the next 1,000 or 1,100 hours there. So even if we're going to be below normal, we're still getting precipitation this time. It's not like the precipitation is just going to outright cut off. And this goes all the way towards the end of May. So just kind of fun to look off into the extended forecast a little bit. Here's the 6 to 10 day, 6 to 10 day precipitation, 8 to 14 day. Got that above average signal there as we go towards the end of the month, and kind of a mixed bag there for precipitation. And the new drought monitor is out today. There were no changes, no discernible changes that I could see at all. The only thing I saw was a bit of that exceptional drought extended across portions of Arizona, but no changes for Oregon, Washington, Idaho, or Montana. Oregon completely drought and abnormally dry free as of this moment here, April 17th. So anyway, hope you guys are enjoying the channel. Click like and subscribe. We'll do this all again tomorrow. We'll break everything down, and I will talk to you guys then.